I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet, because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. Hope you're doing really, really well. This week I am doing a solo episode, which I haven't done for ages actually. So you've got just me this week. And this week I'm going to be talking about something which you may well have heard me mention quite a few times over the last few months. And it's all about breathwork. And you might have heard that I have been training to become a breathwork facilitator. And I've been wanting to do an episode on breathwork for ages, but I just wanted to wait until I had completed my training, which I pretty much have. I've just got one small thing left to do and then I am done. Over the years, more recent years, I have taken quite a lot of different trainings in different healing modalities. It started with health and life coaching, which I still very much use. I then did a meditation teacher training. I then did an EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. And alongside that, I did this matrix re-imprinting training, which is really cool. It's all about reprogramming your beliefs. Then I did a hypnotherapy training with no other than Paul McKenna. And now I have just completed a training in breathwork. I think I'm going to stop now in the trainings. I just need to, the problem is I kind of find out about a new training. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so cool. And I experience it and I want to do it, but I'm going to stop now. And I have to say, of all of these trainings, breathwork, I think, is most definitely my favorite. It really complements all the other things that I do so well. It's an amazing tool, particularly during perimenopause. It can help with stress, which, as we know, is vitally important at this stage. You know, if we can get on top of our stress, reduce it, we can increase our bandwidth, then we are winning. And that is the beauty of breathwork. It does all of those things. It also really helps with anxiety, which obviously is a very common perimenopause symptom. It can really help deepen your sleep, another perimenopause issue, and improve focus and concentration. So I just feel it's so relevant to everything which I've been doing to date. And I'm just so excited to be able to offer this as part of all the things that I do. And part of my training, I've had to complete 60 hours of practice, which initially I thought that's so much practice. But actually, I totally understand why we had to do that, not least to just improve and get better and get more experience. It really has been amazing. But I've also met so many new people who I've managed to offer a breathwork experience to and meet. And it's just been really lovely. And what it's really made me appreciate is how easy it is to bring something like breathwork to people in a very accessible way. I've been doing most of my trainings online. I have done a few in person, but I've been doing it online. It's very interesting. A lot of the people in the course have just been doing in-person practicums, which we call them trainings. Whereas I have really gone for the online. It feels very comfortable for me. And yeah, it's kind of something which I really am looking forward to using. So it's just a brilliant tool. So anyway, I thought this week I would dedicate this whole episode to breathwork, to share with you a little bit about how I came to really love it myself. And also just to understand a little bit more about the breath and its impact, and then actually talk about what breathwork actually is and some of the benefits of breathwork, which I've already obviously alluded to, particularly for perimenopause. And then I'm just going to share a little bit about some of the different types of breathwork, because it can be a little bit confusing because there are quite a few different types. And then I'm going to share with you what a sort of a typical breathwork session, well, with me, might actually look like. So let's just start by, I just want to tell you about how I came to breathwork. And I wish I had this amazing, enlightening, earth-shattering kind of amazing story to tell you, which honestly, in my training, lots of people did. They experienced breathwork and they had it like a real moment of, this is incredible, I've got to do it. I never had that. Instead, for me, I really do feel that breathwork found me. I think I'm meant to do this work because it comes pretty easily and naturally to me. And I don't say that lightly, but it's something which I just really, really enjoy facilitating. I really enjoy doing more than probably any of the other things which I do. Of course, I've done in the past, I've done yoga and I've practiced things like pranayama, which you probably have done if you've done yoga. So things like alternate nostril breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. Perhaps you've done things like the like box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then hold for 4. So I'm sure many of you may well have tried those sorts of breathing types of breath work before. And they're all really, really good for us. But I hadn't really tried anything more than that. And it was only when, I think it was my friend Lucy, suggested to me that I follow someone called Samantha Skelly on Instagram. So Sam is the founder and CEO of Pause Breathwork. So I dived into her Instagram. And that was it. I was immediately just drawn into her energy. I was drawn into all of it. And so I signed up for one of Sam's free kind of online workshop things she was doing. And I was introduced to a breath which I've since been taught how to teach, which is called the triactive breath, which is a pretty activating breath. So Sam led the session. She played some really good music. So the music's a big part of it for me. And I love, that's part of the session I love to facilitate. And I'll talk more on that a little bit later on. But during this session, I was sold. I experienced, I think it was probably only about 20 minutes of kind of breathing. And I just experienced so many different emotions. So feelings of perhaps, I can't really remember, but it's sadness, but then real bliss and real peace, all of it. I just felt incredible. And it was literally a few weeks later that Pause were inviting their next cohort in for their 6-month facilitator training. And before I knew it, I was signed up. I just followed my gut, my intuition, and honestly, it was one of the easiest yeses I think I've ever made. I mean, it was an investment, and usually I'd think twice about investing that amount of money, but I just knew that this was right, and I just had to do it. And that was back in April of this year. And since then, alongside everything else which I've been doing, I mean, it's been a really busy year, but I've learned so much. I've experienced and practiced breathwork pretty much most days. I've, as I said, met so many amazing people. I feel I've made some new friends, particularly within the training. It's been so wonderful. I love these trainings for that. I also would say that I have probably felt more bliss and peace than I've ever experienced through breathwork. I feel so connected to myself, probably more so than ever before. A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you. I definitely would say my sleep has been deeper than I've ever had it. And most of the time, I'm really pretty chilled out. I mean, obviously there's stress in my life, but I feel like my bandwidth, my capacity to be able to cope with stress has just widened even more than it was before. And I do think that's all because of breathwork and this training. And it's just taught me to become so familiar and aware of what I'm feeling in the moment and to be just much more present. And I know that this is what meditation does as well, bring you back to presence and really to build that awareness. And I've been practicing meditation now for a number of years, and I still do really like to meditate. But what I've noticed is that if I practice breath work before I meditate, the meditation is so much more enjoyable. It feels easier, because one of the things I hear a lot is how a lot of people struggle to meditate. And this is the same for me too. Sometimes my mind is so busy and so on that it does actually feel really difficult to quieten it, to just sit and just notice the thoughts, because sometimes before I've even realized it, I've been off thinking about a million other things. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes have gone and I've just been off thinking. And it can take quite a long time of meditating to get to a place where you feel calmer or you feel different. And what I've found about breath work is that actually, because you're doing something active by breathing, and because of the power of the breath, you actually, well, I do anyway, drop out of my mind and into my body really quite quickly. The results are deeper in a much shorter amount of time. So if you're someone who struggles with meditation or just never really got on with meditation, I really, really do recommend giving breathwork a go. The other thing I really do love about breathwork is that I would say about 80 to 90% of the time I can come to a breathwork session and I can be feeling really stressed or really pissed off about something or feeling really overwhelmed. And then I breathe or I do the session. I mean, sometimes just doing a breath pattern for 5 minutes is enough. And I can just really release the charge. Well, the negative charge on those emotions gets released and it almost kind of fizzles away. And you get to return back to a much more balanced state. It's really interesting because the way that we move energy is through movement of our physical body, sound, or our breath. So those three ways really help shift any sort of negativity or any energy really through us. And that's what the breath is doing. As Sam Skelly always says, you are the drug. You have everything within you to create the state you want to be in. And it really is the best drug you will ever take. There's no harmful side effects. It's really amazing. And it just helps you to feel so much calmer, just lighter, just so much better. Let's just start by thinking about breathing. On average, we breathe about 20,000 times a day. So that's a lot of breaths. It's probably the first thing that you listen out for when a baby is born. And it's the last thing you do when you die. So it defines life. And the breath brings energy into your body and gives you life, gives life to your cells. So you might be thinking, okay, I thought that food gives us energy. Food is the fuel. But that's only partly right. The most common and effective way for the food you eat to be broken down into a usable energy source requires oxygen, which obviously requires breathing. Do you remember learning at school the equation oxygen plus glucose / food equals energy? Well, that is that's what we're doing by breathing. We're giving our food the really necessary oxygen to give us energy. So looked at it this way, 2/3 of all your energy actually comes from the air you breathe. And as most of your cellular waste is carbon dioxide, This means that about 70% of your body's waste is expelled through your lungs when you breathe out. The rest is removed through your sweat, through your wee, through your poop. So if we strip things right back to basics, that's what breathing is about. It's about energy in from the air around you and waste out. I mean, it is a little bit more complicated than that, but let's just keep this simple. So if breathing gives you energy, then how you breathe depends on how much energy you need. So imagine, for example, you turn the corner after a long day and you see the last bus that can take you home about to pull away from the bus stop. So you run to try and catch it. So what happens to your breathing? Well, the muscles in your legs will need more energy so that they can run. So your breathing speeds up. Your heart will beat faster, both to pump more oxygen to your hardworking cells and also to remove the excess carbon dioxide, which will be created in the process. So you'll probably need to catch your breath afterwards to recover because you'll still be producing carbon dioxide, the waste product. And then later in the day, perhaps when you get into your bed, your breathing will slow down to calm your mind and let the tension, hopefully in an ideal world, leave your body. So it's easier for you to go to sleep. So your breathing is influenced by what you're doing. So that's the really important first thing to know. Your breathing is influenced by what you're doing. So this change in energy through breath doesn't only happen in situations where we consciously decide that we need to move more or we need to move less. Your brain is in fact always scanning your environment for signs of safety and danger. It's trying to keep you alive. So that's how we have evolved. Your brain's read thousands and thousands of social and environmental cues in your surroundings, and it automatically chooses a type of breathing. So that's either fast or slow, deep or shallow, and that will give your body the right energy it needs to respond to your environment without you even having to think about it. So your brain also monitors the signal it receives back from your breathing pattern to trigger a physical and emotional response, whether that's being more alert or being more relaxed or having more attention or feeling really excited or maybe anxiety. So even when you interact with others, you'll notice you pick up on facial expressions, tone of voice, bodily movements, for example, and all of that influences your breathing too. So it's a two-way street. What you do and how you feel influences how you breathe, and how you breathe influences what you do and how you feel. Okay, so yeah, it all happens because there's a link between your breathing and your autonomic nervous system, which you might well have heard of before. So your autonomic nervous system is controlled by your unconscious mind. You don't obviously have to think about any of that. That is all happening automatically. And in fact, breathing is one of the very few bodily functions that's controlled by both the conscious and the unconscious parts of your mind. So you can direct your breath's flow, you can speed it up, you can slow it down, you can actually hold your breath, you can stop it altogether. You can do all of that using your conscious mind. Or you can just leave it to run all by itself and just let your unconscious mind take over. There's not many parts of your body or bodily functions which do that. So this is really pretty handy because imagine on your busier days, you might forget to breathe otherwise. So it's absolutely necessary. So it's the way that you breathe that influences your autonomic nervous system and causes you to move between two states. So we've got the active state or we've got a rest state. Now, these two states are determined by which division of your autonomic nervous system is more dominant. So, for example, when a threat is detected, or you're going to trigger the sympathetic, the fight or flight. And you've probably heard me talk about this before in previous episodes. And, this stressed out state triggers and is triggered by the fast, short, shallow breathing. So you might notice if you're feeling nervous about something or you're feeling a bit anxious, your breath might change. You get that real sort of fast, short, shallow breathing. It also happens when you do physical exercise, including things like running for the bus. On the flip side, you've got your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, digest, and repair your state. And this is much more chilled out, and it triggers and is triggered by slow, gentle, deep breathing. And often happens when you're relaxing, when you're recovering, and when you're sleeping. So once you understand and recognize both these divisions of the autonomic nervous system and the corresponding physical, mental, and emotional states they produce, you can use your breath to bounce between them or balance them out. And I think it's really important here to recognize that neither state is better than the other. I think we often think, sympathetic state, the fight or flight, we shouldn't be in that. But you need to use them both depending on the situations you find yourself in. The thing is though, you might find yourself stuck in one state or too often using the other. So maybe you feel like you're always on, and you really do need to hit that off button, but you can't seem to manage it. Or on the other flip side, perhaps you've just lost your get up and go, and you find everything a real effort and a real struggle, and you need a boost of energy. So that's the case, you're actually stuck in the parasympathetic state. Or perhaps you just simply need to find some more balance and just sort of learn to hit that cruise control. So that's where breath work comes in. So knowing about the autonomic nervous system is really helpful because honestly, it probably reveals the most fundamental principles of breath work. And that is that not only does the way you breathe affect the way you think and feel, but also the way you think and feel affects the way you breathe. It's a feedback loop. So let me just try and explain this a little bit more. So thinking happens in your mind. Feelings happen in the body, triggered by your breath. So for example, if you're breathing fast and shallow, you perhaps are feeling more fear and anxiety. If your breathing is slow and deep, you're probably feeling calmer and more peaceful. So your thoughts and your feelings change the way you breathe, and your breathing changes the way you feel, which then changes the way you think. So if you're thinking anxious thoughts and feeling anxious, you're in the sympathetic mode. Your heart is racing, you're taking short, shallow, anxious breaths, and your state is, I'm anxious. And in most cases, though, you can break this state of being loop in one of two ways. So you can either think differently, replacing the anxious thoughts with more positive ones, which is something you can try. But if you're feeling anxious, this can really feel really tricky and really, really quite hard. Or you can breathe differently to change how you feel in your body, so it no longer matches your thoughts and your state of being loop is broken. Your brain's saying, hold on a minute, I'm not anxious actually, because my heart isn't racing. My breathing is relaxed. And this state of being loop applies to any state, positive or negative. So for example, breathing calmly will create a feeling of calm, and calm thoughts will follow. So let's just think about what breathwork actually is. So I tried to find a definition of breathwork, and my goodness, there are so many different definitions. So this is how I see it, and this is how I've been taught. So breathwork really refers to the various techniques that involve consciously controlling and regulating breathing patterns. So breathwork simply uses your breath to make a positive change to the way you think and to the way you feel. Think of it as a workout for your nervous system. This is nervous system work, essentially. It's bringing your body back into balance. And think also of it as expanding your body's capacity to be able to cope with stress and stressful feelings and situations. You know, when you're at your full capacity and just the smallest things happen and you just lose your shit. Well, what breathwork helps you do so well is to really build and expand that capacity so that you're able to respond rather than react to stressful situations. You're able just to hold more capacity for those stressful situations. You know, you're not going to flip out so readily. A healthy nervous system basically means that you can smoothly shift between different states. That more activated sympathetic state and that more relaxed parasympathetic state. So it's all about flexibility, having that flexible nervous system. And I talk more about this actually in the episode I did on stress, which is episode number 61. So if you want more on this, you can go back and have a listen to that. And this is really what breathwork's so brilliant at doing. Throughout the day and within each breath, really, our nervous system is made to activate and then settle, activate and then settle. And this is on repeat with our in and our out breaths. And a healthy, regulated nervous system does this naturally and is flexible. However, with stress and also with trauma, the nervous system can become dysregulated and it can really become very rigid. And breathwork done safely and slowly really can help us repattern this slow. So this gets us back to a healthier baseline and gives us that flexibility and allows us to move through the ups and downs of life with so much more ease. If we breathe in a way that stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is often done more through the mouth, and obviously we've got to do this in a safe container of a breathwork session, you can actually experience a general sense of activation. You can experience heightened sensations, your heart rate increases, you might want to move the body. And this is when you can actually sometimes get some real moments of release, you know, and it all gets to be there in a session. And sometimes this is very good because it can really help energize you and move energy through your body, anything which is really stuck and stagnant. And when you breathe in a way that stimulates the other side, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's when you may experience more of a general sense of relaxation, a sense of ease, more softness in the body. And that's when you might get the real restful, blissful feelings. But both types of stimulation have the potential to be deeply, deeply healing and transformative. I hope that makes sense. There is a lot of science behind what is actually happening in the body. I'm not going to go into that today, but obviously feel free to go and look it up if that's of interest to you. But I think I might totally get you all switched off if I start talking about all the real sciencey bits. So I have already mentioned lots of benefits. You know, as I've said, it's really amazing for stress and anxiety, help you feel calmer, more relaxed. And immediately after doing breath work, in my sessions, and if you're doing it on your own, always do make sure to take time to let it soak in. And this for me is the best bit of it all. That's the bit that can feel so blissful. And it's also great, as I said, for re-energizing you if you're feeling really flat and tired. I've found that with breathwork, the more you practice, the better it gets, and then the better it gets. So just to mention just briefly some other benefits of breathwork, which I haven't mentioned yet. So it can also increase your lung capacity, which is very helpful for your health. It can increase heart rate variability. It can help boost your immune function. It can help with a healthy digestive system. It helps to rewire the brain to release old patterns and create new ones. It can really release tension. And then the sort of a deeper breathwork sessions can really help process and release trauma and really connect with and hear the wisdom of your body. I mean, ultimately what it's doing, it's going to shift your state. It's going to shift your energy, and it can also really shift your mood. So I want to tell you about the type of breath work that I'm trained in, and also some of the other types of breath work out there. As you may well be aware of, breathwork it's an ancient modality that has been around for centuries, and it's been used in ancient cultures for years. They knew all of the benefits of it right back there, and it's only today becoming more popular because science is now proving how amazing it is. So it first came to the Western world in the 20th century by two pioneering physicians who believed that breathwork could really help people to connect with their higher selves, and also as a way to release blocked emotions and heal the mind-body connection. And since then, breathwork's been developed and refined by many different teachers and therapists. And today there really are a variety of different breathwork techniques that can be used, all there to improve health and well-being. It's definitely becoming more mainstream in the Western world, a bit like yoga did a number of years ago, and then meditation did. And, as I say, that I think it's because the science is now proving how amazing it is. So I see breathwork as being divided into two main categories. We've got the functional breathwork, and then we've kind of got more transformative. So functional breathwork is focused on improving respiratory health and just general performance, but also physical performance. So it really does, it's kind of improving everyday breathing patterns to enhance overall health and performance. It aims to correct common breathing habits that can lead to shallow breathing, to kind of extreme fatigue, to stress. And you may well have heard of two of the pioneers of functional breathing, which is James Nestor, who wrote the amazing book Breath, and Patrick McKeown, who also has written some great books. The Oxygen Advantage is one of his books. They're both worth a read if you're interested in breath work. I think the biggest thing that I've learned from both of these two kings of the breathwork world, particularly the functional breathwork world, is that we should all be breathing in and out of our nose as we go about our daily lives, and also as we do any sort of physical exercise. However, the opposite is true. So it's thought that a massive 80% of us don't breathe correctly and kind of breathe through our mouths, sleep with our mouths open. And that's generally because we're so stressed. It's our modern day lives mean that we've adapted to breathing more through our mouths than our noses. We're meant to breathe through our noses. That's the way we're made to breathe. And when we don't, it can cause a huge number of health problems. Asthma, sleep problems, lack of energy, so many different issues. And interestingly, though, a lot of these problems can be fixed by fixing the breathing, by teaching yourself to breathe through your nose. I mean, it's amazing when you hear of Patrick McKeown and James Nestor, how particularly Patrick McKeown, he's worked with people who've had chronic asthma and they've been to all the doctors, they've had all the tests, they've kind of slightly given up. And then he has taught them how to breathe through their nose and change their breathing habits. And the asthma has completely gone. And he's one of those people. He used to have chronic asthma. It's unbelievable, really, that doctors haven't been trained in this. And I think it's probably because there's no money to be made. There's no drugs to be sold. It doesn't support the medical industry, which often is a sick service rather than a health service. So this is just an invitation, I suppose, for you just to notice, how is your breathing? Just take a moment to sit quietly and just breathe. Are you breathing through your nose? Are you breathing through your mouth? Is your breath mainly coming from your chest, into your chest, or do you breathe down into your belly? So just notice it. And if you snore or your partner snores at night, then that really is an indication that you're probably breathing through your mouth, or there's some other breathing issues. In Patrick McKeown's book, I mean, there's so many amazing bits of advice of what you can do to retrain yourself to breathe through your nose. One of them is mouth taping at night. But you can do some simple and very effective techniques, such as just the box breath, inhaling for the count of 4, holding for the count of 4, exhaling for the count of 4, and then holding for a count of 4. Just by slowing down your breathing all through your nose, doing some diaphragmatic breathing. So just really breathing into the belly, noticing the diaphragm moving. So your belly should you should see your belly move rather than your chest. Alternate nostril breathing as well. So all of this is functional type of breath work. On the other end of the scale, I would say, you've then got more transformative type of breath work. Now, this is focused more on achieving deep levels of self-awareness and spiritual growth. So transformative breath work encompasses a range of techniques that aim to induce altered states of consciousness and really promote personal transformation. These techniques often involve more of an intense breathing pattern. So you've probably heard of Wim Hof. So there's the Wim Hof method. And he does do a combination of breath work, cold exposure, meditation, and that's all designed to kind of boost the immune system and improve overall well-being. There is holotropic breath work. And a guided session in holotropic breathwork combines rapid breathing, often with tribal music, and that's really to kind of go to deeper states of consciousness. There's a technique called rebirthing, which is a technique that involves, again, rapid, deep breathing to try and release emotional blockages and trauma. So there are so many more as well. So I've been trained by pause breathwork in the pause breathwork technique, which I see as lying somewhere in between both the functional and this more transformative. It's somewhere in the middle. It straddles both of them. And for me, that was important because I like bits of both of them. And importantly, it incorporates a trauma-informed approach, which makes it really safe, much safer than some of these quite heavy breathwork experiences, because if you have, for example, experienced trauma and you go into one of these heavy breathwork sessions, it can cause past trauma to resurface and the nervous system to dysregulate. So this really does feel much more inclusive than some other forms of breathwork. Your nervous system, as you've probably worked out by now, plays a crucial role in all of this work. So the way I facilitate breathwork is to really encourage and empower you to listen to your body. You know your body better than anyone else. And, some breathwork sessions out there can be quite intense and almost quite kind of macho. It's like, right, we're going to just breathe in this really heavy way, keep going. How I've been trained is that we don't want you to force or push yourself into a practice that may harm you, may harm your body. Everybody has their limits, and it's really, really important that you honor them within yourself. Learning to listen to your body's internal wisdom is critical in caring for yourself in the best way possible. I always encourage something called titration, which is the practice of moving slowly and taking things one step at a time as your body feels ready to do so. I always offer choices. You get to choose what feels best for you. You're always in charge. I'm there to guide. However, having said that, though, it is good to know when you can push your edges, because sometimes, getting uncomfortable for a short amount of time can often, that's where we get to expand that bandwidth, and it really can lead to a greater result or transformation. And that's why having someone facilitate a session is so good, because it really helps you to lead you through and meet those edges in a really, really safe way. And one of the many things I've learned in my training is that within the whole personal development industry today, one of the major flaws is that we are all so busy thinking out how to feel better. We're actually logically using our minds to try to understand an emotional problem. We're always attaching stories to everything, trying to find out why do we feel like we do, and then trying really, really hard to think our way out of it, to healing, to feeling, to growing, to transforming. With breath work, we're doing the opposite. We are releasing the pain and the struggle by letting the mind get out of the way and allowing the body to do the work. The mind then follows naturally. So something like a talk therapy is kind of a top-down approach. Something like breath work is a bottom-up approach. We're getting into the body. We're so good at pushing our feelings away when they feel uncomfortable, or if we've had any sort of trauma, big trauma or little trauma, we bury it, or we numb it, or we just don't feel it. And when we do that, when we're pushing these feelings away or burying them or just not addressing them, what we're doing is just blocking the flow of energy. And so we just never really feel it. And it is so important to feel our feelings, because trauma, any size of trauma, really gets stuck into our body at a cellular level. And until any sort of trauma is cleared from the body, it can never fully heal. You may well have heard of the book The Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk, which is all about how trauma really affects both our mind and our body. And it shows that it's not just about talking things through, although that can be really helpful, but the book suggests you have to feel your feelings and all that goes with them to heal. That's how you properly heal. So while talk therapy and mental and emotional processing can really help, until that trauma is released from the body, it's always going to remain. So this is great because it means there's real hope for people who have got past trauma, things like PTSD, and breathwork can be a really powerful tool in processing trauma in the body. And when we're in our bodies, that is when the mind begins to quiet. And when particularly we're in a slightly altered state of consciousness, when we're not operating at all from our mind, that's when we get to have we have access to a different frequency. And that honestly feels truly amazing, like really powerful, light, really infinitely abundant. And this is honestly what the value of breathwork is. It really helps to unlock and unleash who we really are, and so we can use it in our everyday life. Now, I know this is beginning to sound all a bit woo-woo, but once you try it, you will know what I'm on about. So another more kind of woo benefit of breathwork is that it can really help you tap into your intuition. We're all naturally intuitive, but often we really block our ability to access our intuition. And through breathwork, we are able to bypass our mind, and instead we kind of are led right into our intuition. And when we use the breath in a conscious and active way, we just don't need to fight with the mind or with our emotions. It's great. We just bypass them. Breathwork is said to be industrial grade meditation, or meditation on steroids, which I would tend to agree with, as it really does. It leads us directly into our system. It's kind of like deep into our hearts. And yeah, it just really connects you with your true essence. Quite often I find, you get really clear downloads and intuitive hits, even after just a few moments of breath work. So Honestly, after a breath session, you just feel great. You land in a real place of stillness. Your mind is generally more relaxed. Your heart feels really open. And it's just a great place and time to really seek some of the answers within you and really find your true essence, that real you that kind of exists under all of the layers, all the baggage, all the stuff we've collected during our lives. And that's when you kind of get that real sense of clarity. I mean, this is why it's so damn good. So I've banged on enough, I think, about breathwork and why I love it. And I hope I've made some sort of sense to you. What might a breathwork session look like? Now, a session which I do, we call them a journey. Now, I know that sounds a little bit naff, but actually I quite like it because you do go on a little bit of a journey. And even in a short amount of time, you feel like you've kind of gone through various stages. Now, you can do breathwork for however long you want. I generally offer 30-minute sessions or 1-hour sessions. Generally, a lot of the sessions I've been doing are 30 minutes because I think actually that's just so much more accessible. And a journey always generally has music. For me, this is a big part of why I love it. I love music. And if I'm honest, I would love to be a DJ, but I'm absolutely rubbish at remembering the names of bands, name of artists, any lyrics. I'm useless at all of it. But when I'm doing a breathwork journey and I get to create a gorgeous playlist of music, I don't have to remember any of that. And I really love it because I do feel like I'm taking someone on a bit of a journey. And it's such a powerful way to support each section of the journey. And it really does enhance the experience. I always recommend my breathers to wear headphones because it just makes it so much more powerful. So what might you expect? So we always start with an opening. So that's where there's a quick introduction telling you what to expect and where I'll demonstrate the breath pattern, which we'll be using during the journey. We then set an intention, which is really important because that just really allows you to focus your energy. So it's a bit like kind of setting a destination in Google Maps. You know where you're going with it. And those intentions can be as simple as just letting go. It might be, feeling calmer. It might be, to feel more grounded, whatever it might be. And then the intention works very well, both individually and also for a group. We then get to do the breath pattern. And for a 30-minute journey, really the breath pattern is no longer than 8 minutes, but it feels longer than that. If you were to have a session for an hour, then obviously it would be longer for that. And that's where you kind of, it's probably more meditative. But actually those 8 minutes are very, very powerful. After the breath, it's the best bit, I think. It's when you get to return normally back to your normal breath. You soak in all of the feelings. You feel all the tingles and sensations and just savor the moment and just let whatever wants to come through. And then we just close off. There's a chance for reflection. And often I'll give, some short and simple guidance for post-journey care. So that's it really. I hope that this has been valuable and interesting in some way, and I hope it's made sense. And if you are curious to try, I've got something very exciting to announce. I'm not going to be doing a big old launch for this at the moment because I just want to keep this low key because I want it to feel easy and fun and I just want to see how it goes. So I'm very excited to be starting an online breathwork community called Just Breathe. And this is something I've been wanting to do since I started this course because I can see it as bringing breathwork to busy people in a very, very accessible way, because I think the more people who can access this and benefit in and experience this will just really feel the benefits. And it's just perfect for women going through perimenopause. It's perfect for anybody, but particularly if you are perimenopausal, it has so many benefits, and it is literally like a little treat to yourself during the day. And those benefits will last. So from the beginning of December this year, which is very soon, I'm going to be offering 3 30-minute breathwork journeys every week. So that is about 12 sessions a month. And you'll be able to drop into any of them for just £20 a month. Now, this is my introductory offer. I'm sure this price will go up next year, but anyone who wants to get in this year, the price will remain the same for you for however long you're in Just Breathe, because technically you'll be one of my founding members. So with that, you will get unlimited breathwork sessions and access to the recordings for the following week as well, because I appreciate not everybody's going to be able to make the times. That's the tricky thing, I suppose, because I'm never going to find times that suit everyone, and that's something I just really need to play around with. Now, if you've never done breathwork before, or you're just curious to see if it might be for you, especially now after having heard me talk about it, then you can sign up for a free trial. Just pick a day and a time and drop into a session. I'll explain everything during the session, and for more info, all you need to do is go to pollywarren.com/justbreathe. I'll put the link in the show notes. You may well be wondering, how does it work in a group and online? Well, that is how I've been trained, and although one-to-ones and in person can be really, truly amazing, there's also a really beautiful group energy when you breathe as a group. And of course, you're still in the comfort of your own home, having your own experience. And obviously no one's going to be looking at you because everyone's going to probably have their eyes closed. But it's just, I love the fact that you'll be able to do this as part of your day. You will be able to do it at your desk. It really will transform how you feel in that moment. It really is a gift, I believe, to yourself to take a 30-minute break, which is going to make you feel supported, hopefully calmer or more energized, whatever you need in that moment. It's definitely also going to increase your capacity for everything that's going on in your life. And the best thing is you can just do it all at home, wherever you might be. It really will be just like pushing a reset button. So if you go to the webpage, what you'll see 2 places to sign up. You can either go for a free trial, or you can sign up straight away if that's what you would like to do. And at the bottom of that page, you'll be able to read loads of different testimonials from people who've already experienced sessions with me, and it will give you a real sense of how just 30 minutes can shift your state of being, and also what to expect. So come and sign up for a free trial if you're curious. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So that's pollywarren.com/justbreathe. Thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, I really do appreciate it. Have a truly wonderful week, and I really, really do hope to see you in Just Breathe. Take lots of care, and I will speak to you next time. Bye.